Hello everybody, Keith here again. Possibly one of the more unusual of my repotting projects today. Excuse me. This is, of course, my Psychopsis Mariposa. It's a plant that I find is a little bit tricky with regards to the potting medium. When I first got it and repotted it, I put a lot of moss in because, you're told, you read all the books, these things like moisture. And that's true. But like a lot of orchids, not all, but like a lot of orchids that like moisture, they don't like to be wet. I presume that in the wild, on the trees, they get a lot of rain, but it isn't continuous. So they've evolved to be in a high moisture environment, but the roots don't stay wet. And when I first repotted this after I bought it, and it's a few years ago now, it was staying wet for a long time, 2 weeks plus, and it sulked. So I repotted it fairly quickly and I cut back the amount of moss. Still got some moss because it does like moisture, but I cut back the moss so that it was going to dry out in about a week to 10 days. And to do that, I have to vary the amount of moisture I put through it. A lot of my plants, my vanda goes into a bucket for a soak. My dendrobiums, my phalaenopsis and so on, cattleyas, they all get, for the moment, where I can, they all get dunked and given a soak. They get a lot of water, but they're in plain bark. And I often drill the pot to dry it out. I've drilled this pot as well. But it's around 2 years now since I repotted it last. And it's cooled off, it's not using the water that it's getting, and it's now staying wet for a long time again. So I think it's time to be done. I've got to be really, really careful when I do the repotting that I don't do what I did last time, which is to bury the pseudobulbs. Some plants, it doesn't matter. You bury the pseudobulb, the plant won't worry about that. As long as, again, it doesn't stay wet, the pseudobulb will deteriorate, it won't rot. These will rot incredibly quickly. Those pseudobulbs must sit on the surface, at the surface, not above it, but categorically not on it, not under it. Some pseudobulbs at the front here which went black almost immediately. I scraped it back, made a hollow, and it stopped it. But eventually, not all that long ago, I had to take one of those off because it had finally gone. But on the whole, it's still doing very well. We've got this, the original spike, which got snapped off, if you remember, has now got a new bud. The new spike, which is grown for me now, is extending nicely. It's keeping, I don't know how tall it's got to be before it flowers. It's not really showing any great signs of flowering yet. We've got I think somewhere around here we've got another new growth. Yeah, and now we've got another new growth around the back, just here. So this is doing okay. We've got lots of new growths. The leaves are nice and firm. They're a very solid leaf. They're almost like cardboard. You could swear blind that that was artificial, that leaf. It's so, there's no flexibility about it whatever. You look at this path leaf, you can wobble that around, foul leaf to some extent. This is absolutely rock solid once it sets. So, given that this is, you know, an orchid that likes to be, well, that's a new growth that's still developing. I mistook that for a second for the for a new growth, but it's not. It's a sheath that sits around the pseudobulb. But yeah, it likes moisture. It doesn't want to be wet. If it dries out in 7 to 10 days, it's fine. It's happy at that. So you either lather it in water when it's not quite dry, just when it's on the point of drying out, or you trickle a bit through, just enough to keep it going without letting it sit and get wet. And now that it's cooled off and the temperatures in here are not getting much over the mid-20s, and I've moved it out of here because I don't think it's going to want the low overnight temperatures. We get in here and we're getting to around 15-16 degrees. So I'll move this upstairs onto one of the upstairs bedroom windowsills, and conversely I've brought my Masdevallias and Restrepias back downstairs because it's cooler in here, they'll be happier. But let's get back to this one. This has been in this pot for a couple of years. That's not very clever, that won't be going back. Shows you how long that's been in here. But like a lot of these things, it tries to grow towards the light. So you've got to be quite good with tying it up. And as you can see, I haven't exactly done the greatest of jobs with this. We've got a kink there, but that's all you need to do is be away for a few days and it will move. And to be honest, if you don't catch it within a fairly short time, it'll set. And then as far as doing anything with it's concerned, you can whistle. So you can see that we've got a lot of roots that have gone all the way through. They're pretty much no good, I can feel that. So it won't matter if they get lost. But it should be, if I remember rightly, about about 30% moss, something of that order. Certainly not much more than that. It'll certainly go back in the same pot, I think. I don't think that's a problem. Yeah, it's there's a lot of bark in there. We've got some nice roots. We've definitely got some good roots. I don't doubt we'll have some that have had it, but that's always the case. But we have got an absolute mass of roots in here. So I'm going to have to be quite cute because it'll be very, very easy to be concentrating on doing this and then whack those one of those spikes. So what I'm going to do now then is turn it off and get stuck into this. Take a bit more care so I'm not whittering away and I've half my mind on something else, because there ain't much of a mind in there to lose half of it. And we'll see how we get on. There's quite a lot of roots down the middle. Blimey, there's quite a lot of roots in there as well. Not sure what's happening here. awful lot of roots and they're in a heck of a tangle. And I don't want to get things too messed up, because these are not an orchid that likes to be repotted. You can really get yourself in a right tangle with these, and I don't want to do that. Got some nice branching roots. Got some really nice roots on this. Right, I'm going to shut you down and I'll be back when I've finished. Okay, quite a nice root system. There are some dud roots, of course there are. I'm not going to go too mad. I think some of them have had it. Some of these are nice new roots, you can see. We've got branches on some of them, which is obviously good. What I have noticed is that if a root is bad, it's often a branch. I don't know why branches particularly seem to be weaker than the main growth. As I've said many times before, I'm not a biologist, I'm a mechanical cum mining engineer, so my knowledge of root structures could be written on a fly's backside, so in fact a fruit fly's backside. So we've got some nice nice roots that I don't want to mess it about too much. They don't like being disturbed. Yeah, there's a little branch there, look. Don't like to be messed about. I'm going to put a fairly small amount of moss in. I can always put some more moss around the top if it's not very happy, but I think something in the bottom for a bit of drainage. And then I'm going to sort of rip this up. This is moss that I've soaked for other jobs. It's ended up being more than I wanted. So what I tend to do then is put it in a resealable plastic bag, and it keeps it moist, and it's quite happy and it's ready for use without any messing about. So if I mix that with some bark, I hope then when I start trying to put it back, I'll be able to end up with a mixture that it will be happy with. So there is some moss in there. Try to disperse it all the way through. So the next thing really is to see how we get on with this. Right. I said earlier on, what I don't want to do is get the pseudo bulbs in under the surface. I've done that, and that's asking for trouble. Really is asking for trouble. So I think if I so that's not enough, I need to make some more up. As I say, I have to get these, because looking at where they grow at the surface. They don't grow sort of low down. So what I want to end up with is something that stays moist longer than it would do if it was for a phalaenopsis or something. But as I say, I don't want to have it wringing wet, and that's the balancing act I've got to try and perform. I would rather have to water it more often than have it sitting there with wet roots and fail. I am told not many people can grow or do grow these anymore because these spikes just keep extending, and you can end up with a very large plant. And I think this is on the way to becoming a very large plant, with a bit of luck. To make some more up again, I think. But yes, I think although, as I say, they like moisture, they don't want to be wet, they don't want to be dry either. So it's a fine balancing act to try and work. But I think if it's undoubtedly better to water it more often, and that's only going to be the case in the summer, as it is at the moment, as it was last winter. Instead of giving it a really good drench, I'd only just trickle the smallest amount of water through it, just enough, sort of turn the pot round, just trickle, very gently trickling water over the surface, and as soon as the water starts to come through the bottom of the pot, stop. But you've got to be prepared to play tunes like that, I think, with orchids that are a bit more finicky. They're not difficult things to grow. It comes down to it, they really aren't. Well, you get conditions right for them, and they, like anything else, get the conditions right and they'll thrive. It sounds horribly trite, doesn't it? But, ended up a bit higher in the pot than I wanted it, but I'm going to fish it out and try it again. I think I really don't want to have to, don't need to pack it round with some bark so it's not an easily draining top surface. I think somewhere for the roots to go when they first emerge, but that's better, I think. Right, so what we can do with these, right, I'll put these back then. careful, keep it careful. That's the one we want. There we go then. So, that's Psychopsis Mariposa. Hopefully that will sort itself out. It's a little bit higher in the pot than I would like, and we'll have to see how it goes. It wouldn't surprise me if I don't have to oik that out and have another go at it, but I hope not. Anyway, thank you for watching. We'll see how we go with this now, but I think we should be okay. I hope that's a bit of interest. I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.